Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bite Size Panel Edition, where we take a quick but deep look at the human condition at home, at work, everywhere. I'm your host, show creator, animator, and MAPS business coach, Peter K. Weiner. And today we have a panel of two joining us who are here to discuss today's topic, which I will reveal shortly. First, let's welcome Albert Lawrence, TV personality, producer, and social media expert. And let's also welcome once again MAPS business coach, business owner, and all-around observant soul, Jake Clendenning. Hello, gentlemen, and welcome back. Both of you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
So, Albert, can you tell us about what you do, your unique brand, and maybe something interesting going on in your life right now?
Sure, gladly, Peter. Thanks for having me back. So I'm a TV personality, which basically just means that I host content for different clients. So whether it's for Amazon that I do work for, or I'm a correspondent on a series on CBS called Innovation Nation. It's all about science, technology, encouraging the spirit of ingenuity. Or there are other clients that I work with like Coca-Cola. So I just love being able to tell stories and to also bring stories out of people. And then I'm also a media entrepreneur in the way that there's still content that I make on my own, talk show stuff that I do on my own. That's just out of the pure joy of doing it, and out of also, trying to make business sense as well too. One of the things that I'm working on right now, one of the clients I'm working with that I'm really excited to be a part of is Audible. So the company that now we feel is really synonymous with listening to content that's read to us, whether it be spoken word, whether it be book content, podcast content. And I do social media work for them. So I make different videos where I put on a different kind of persona and share with viewers, share with listeners some of the current books that are available for you to jump on in and to dive into, depending on whatever your preference for literary works are.
That's great. Yeah, I'm a huge Audible user, have been for years. So what format is it on? You say video, so obviously it's not on Audible where people are watching it.
Right. So it's on. So right now, most of this content is viewed on Instagram stories. So if you go to Audible's Instagram account, you'll see that they put up these different batches of videos, and then I create a certain string of these videos, including for one, like there's a series called Listening Obsessed Friend. And it's Albert and Albert. So they have me. So I'm talking to myself, wearing a hat, talking to myself, not wearing a hat, and looking for recommendations for different books. And
we need to know which Albert's talking. Absolutely.
Which Albert's talking. Exactly. Yeah. No, the Albert that you're talking with right now is Sweater Albert. There's like a Sweater Albert and there's a hat Albert. Yeah.
Got it. Well, great. That all sounds like exciting stuff. And that's all stuff that people can tune into and see after watching this, which would be awesome. And Jake, tell us a little bit about what's going on with you right now.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. I'm excited about Albert today. Different individual on the show today. This is going to be really, really cool from a content development standpoint. This is pretty exciting. I love the comment about there's Sweater Albert and there's Hat Albert. I very much run that direction. So normally there's regular Jake, and then there's also Hat Jake, so that you're aware of that. But yeah, I'm one of the MAPS transformational coaches. With business coaching, I'm one of the elite level coaches. I'm also in real estate. I do quite a number of other things, and we're gradually paring that down to just really focusing on the coaching program and really working with others in that mission statement. So I'm grateful to be here with Peter, and it's going to be a lot of fun with Albert today.
Yeah. So it's actually, I think it's fortuitous that Jake is sitting in his car in front of Arby's, because we're talking about kind of rattled environments and doing our regular routine. And part of Jake's regular routine is doing this show, as is mine on Friday. But let's go ahead. Today's snippet is entitled True to Yourself, and in it we'll explore how to keep the habits that best define you and who you are, even when the world around you has changed. What sacrifices you are willing to make to keep that very personal ball rolling. And let's take a look at this clip and see what happens. All right, let's roll it. Ever feel as if the life you once knew has been displaced? Maybe you're in the middle of a move, or there's construction going on in your house. Maybe you just had your first child, or you just got married. Good, bad, or indifferent, it's all a major pattern interrupt. So how do you stay centered, productive, and focused through it all? First, look at your habits. Good habits are hard to initiate, but very easy to lose.
And it doesn't take all that much to throw us off our game. A little chaos can launch a whole slew of excuses. Let's look at fitness. How many new parents fall out of shape after they have kids, dads included? Suddenly, healthy meals are a hassle to prepare, and who has the time or energy for that morning workout? Well, you do. If being healthy was a priority before, make the adjustments needed to keep it on top of your list now. If time is a factor, give something else up. The idea here is adaptability. It may no longer make sense for you to go to the gym and work out for 2 hours or run 10 miles, but that doesn't mean you need to throw in the towel. Maybe come up with a home workout you can do every day for half an hour to maintain strength, endurance, and flexibility. Don't go down the rabbit hole of comparing what you were doing to what you're able to do now. What matters is that you haven't given up. You're maintaining a good habit and keeping your core priorities intact. Whether it be travel, new living conditions, smoky air, or pandemics, we are all running into blocks right now. And navigating through this can be chaotic, so it's really important not to lose ourselves in the process. Remember, the activities that used to make you feel like yourself before the disruption are the things you need the most right now to get through it. Maybe before the world went sideways, you loved going to karaoke and singing every Friday night. Well, now things have changed for a while. What about that made you feel alive? Was it the attention? Was it connecting with the music on a spiritual level? Or was it the emotional catharsis of bellowing over accompanied instrumentation? Whatever it was, look for other ways to get it. You might not be able to sing in front of a crowd for a while, but you can still sing. Maybe you can set up a playlist of your favorite karaoke songs, get in the car, park on a quiet street, and sing your heart out twice a week. Whether it's singing, writing, exercising, or debating, whatever your thing is, it's still your thing. Don't make the mistake of giving it up just because your world has changed. Stay true to yourself. It may feel a little forced at the beginning, but it'll be well worth it.
Oh yes, the moving days. I remember those well. Right. All right, so let's open it up, dive a little deeper into this. Albert, let's start with you. What was your key takeaway from this video?
First off, one of my key takeaways was I admire your commitment. Your mise en scène, your setting, if you will, was spot on, of course, with the theme of here, because I can see that you were moving in the background. So you had this stuff boxed up in the closet and whatnot. And since it's Peter, I know that it was intentional. So, I really admire that, because I feel like there was such like a visual representation of the idea that we are no longer, so many of us have been thrown into different spaces and we're having to adapt in ways that we perhaps never intended on adapting before. But yet we've still got to be able to find our center. We've still got to be able to find that space from which we can actually draw our continuous motivation and to really draw the essence of what we think that we're supposed to still be sharing with the world. So I admire that. That was a takeaway before you even started speaking, Peter, within there. But then in terms of the actual content, in terms of what you said, again, I find humor in certain things, because I feel like there's so much truth behind the humor. But there's a part where you talk about keeping your core priorities intact. And I enjoy the pun there. I don't know if you did this intentionally, but I enjoy the pun of the core priorities, especially when you're talking about physical fitness and exercise, and trying to still keep that strong, because I know, just from my experience over the past year, my routine, like some of the things that I've felt were really a ritual for me in terms of going to the gym, then getting my tea after, going for a walk here, listening to the podcast in between, and all of that, it kind of got thrown out and had to be rebuilt. And so through that, and through kind of what you were speaking about in the video, it really did cause me to reflect upon getting beyond a specific ritual, and just because like that specific thing is not available anymore, but really tap into the heart of what is it about this particular ritual? What is it about this particular activity that activated something in me? So maybe we're not going to the karaoke bars right now, but the fun idea of, driving over to the side of the street and, screaming, singing, doing what you will over there. It's about finding the version of that is acceptable, that is accessible for you at the moment. And so that really did hit home for me.
Yeah, and so funny you had mentioned Audible, and that's one of the things that I lost when I switched off of a staff job to what I'm doing now, is I don't have my drive time. So it's
Yes.
like, wow, how do I get my Audible in?
Yeah.
I figured that out. All right, Jake, what about you? What stuck out for you here?
I agree with that, and I agree with Albert on it. And I thought it was nice that he brought up the core priorities piece and what the word core means to us and how it's different, right? Because you've got the pun, which I didn't get the physical part of it until he said it, and then I went, oh yeah, there's that too. But yeah, you've got the core, as in I'm working on my core. I'm physically doing something. You've got we've talked about core values before, so you've got those core values both spiritually and personally, and how little disruptions can mess with that stuff in different ways. And something that came up and I hadn't necessarily thought of before, and as Albert started to unpack that, it became a little more clear, was being fluid. He used the word fluid, and I thought of that different in the regard of, okay, as things get really change in our world, whether we're moving, and Peter does a great job with that, and I know he was moving during the time of that, and just, like today, welcome to, I'm doing this from the mobile office today, and it's about being fluid. And something that popped up to me that maybe we'll make a video of later is, we are made of water. So why can't we just be fluid in a situation? And when we refuse that, that's when we get really rigid, when we get frozen, when we get cold, when we get hard in that spot, that's when the anxiety really occurs, and we let things really mess with us when we stop being fluid. So I thought that was an interesting word that Albert threw in there. It was like, man, I could take off with that.
Yeah, that was really rich, Jake. That's awesome. Wow.
So let me ask you this, Albert, when you travel or when your circumstances change, what activities do you fight to keep? And what sacrifices have you made to keep those?
So we did this trip because one of my good friends, she was having a birthday. She and we decided to go to Hawaii, just hang out there. But I knew as soon as I booked it, I was like, I have a feeling that there is probably going to be some sort of work activity, some sort of work opportunity that will potentially conflict with this time. And sure as rain, I ended up getting a job opportunity that would call upon me to do some work for the first 3 days that we were there, for the Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday that we were there. Now, for me, when I travel, one of the rituals, one of the things that I just love to do is I like creating. I like making things when I go to a place. Hanging out on the beach is fun, and just like relaxing is a fun thing. But to a degree, I have to work to relax. Like it's not the most natural thing for me to completely unplug and to just take things in. Because as I'm taking things in, and you both probably can relate to this as well too. Like as I'm taking in, I want to also put out. Like it's just like a flow. I can't just take too much in without sharing it with someone or finding some way to process it. So the way that I like to process it is by whether it's making video, writing something, doing some sort of work. And so because of that, I was already planning on bringing my cameras with me, bringing my lights with me. And so I was able to accept this job and do this remote work from Honolulu because even though for my friends, when I told them that I was going to do this, and even for the client, when I told them like, hey, it's all good. Like I can still accept this. I'm going to be in Honolulu, but I'll find some hardwired internet somewhere. And I know it's a 6-hour time difference between here and New York, but I'll get about 1. It's fine. And I'm not going to miss anything in between the hours of 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. over here. It's all good. Like it felt crazy. And even to myself, it felt a little like, all right, bro, like, is this too much? But in the process of doing it, I knew, and I rediscovered that like this is important to me. And even though it has the work term assigned to it, for me, it's more about the creation. It's more about like when I go on vacation, something that I do need to still bring along with me, something that I still like to bring along with me is the opportunity or the tools to create.
Yeah, makes sense. Spoken from a man who truly loves his work.
I love it.
And has that as a personal need. And that's a great reminder for all of us, I think. Do what you love. Stick with that. Jake, how about you? What have you really hung on to when circumstances have changed, and what adaptations have you had to make?
You know, the thing that typically will crash and burn for me, like on a vacation or a trip, if I'm taking, like I vacation differently than most people do. Like all of my vacations have to do with like outdoor activities and recreational activities and fishing and hiking and being super active. And when I do work trips in particular, if I'm going to go to an education or a training or a one-on-one thing, the thing historically that has crashed and burned is the fitness. It's that physical output, because your space completely changed. You know, if you're totally displaced and your time is off and everything else, you've got to physically get up and go, I need to move. I know I need to move, and I know I need to drink a gallon of water a day. And those are the things that are going to keep moving me forward, because that's what makes me feel the best. But when I go on a work trip, I have to plug it in there. I have to schedule it. And I have to tell the people that I'm there with as well, I'm going to be doing this, and I'm going to ask your permission to please respect that.
Mm-hmm.
No, that makes sense. And that actually reminds me of something I know about Albert. I don't know how long ago, a few years ago, we were talking, and he was talking about how he just ran through the streets of Dubai when he was there. Just no idea what's going on in that town or who's there, but just ran through the streets because he had to run. Now, I'll never
Look,
forget
it's funny, Jake and Peter, because, you know, like, I think it's great when we recognize certain things about ourselves, but just because we recognize them, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are the healthiest things for us to be doing. But I recognize, like, I like you, Jake, am when I go to a place, the way that I feel connected to the spot is like, to a degree, I want to get lost a little bit. Like I've got to physically move if I'm going to be there for any certain amount of time. Like getting out and like seeing who lives here and like what happens down this street and like what happens if I do run down here, what dogs are going to chase me. You know, so it's on me. Thank you for that reminder, Peter. I'd forgotten about that.
So I have another question for you guys. So so how do you counter that voice that says, you know what, I want to do this, but too many things have changed. It's not worth it. How do you bust through that and still do it anyway?
I think that for me, I do a little bit of memory recall. So I think about the last time that I felt this way and the last time that I pushed through, what was on the other side of it, whether it was some practical reward, whether it was something like a tangible reward, or whether it was just like a certain feeling on the other side of getting through and pushing through that to get that breakthrough. So I rely on that because there have been enough times in life where I've either seen friends or witnessed family members have to push through and then seeing what was on the other side for them. But then even personally, like I've seen what can happen when we push ourselves a little bit more outside of our comfort zone. So I really do call upon those former experiences and try to use those to guide me when I feel like I'm about to hit E.
Yeah, gotcha. And kind of looking at it from the other perspective, when have you felt that you've sacrificed or didn't do something and it was a betrayal to what you realize is your true self or your true core of existence?
Ooh, man, I hate having to make a choice between two things that I love and that really matter to me. Like that's my personal yeah.
So I'm going to go a little deeper into that, then I'll get to Jake because this is a real thing. So what is the big deciding factor for you when you do have two things that appear equal? What is the deciding factor for you?
Oh gosh, the reason I'm in pain is because I'm going through this right now.
Perfect. Oh, please.
Gosh, no, trauma. You know, so for me, sometimes I end up needing to just default to like, what did I commit to first? Like who did I already say, even if I think this next thing might be a better opportunity, like if I can't find a way to still somehow fulfill, and whether that be a friend, like a social gathering thing that I've agreed to do, or whether that be a job, a work thing to do, if I can't find a way to mitigate that and to either come up with a suitable and an acceptable way to substitute what our original plans were, and then we can do this at another time. If I can't figure out how to do that, then usually I end up leaning towards whatever that initial commitment was. And then I just have to, swallow it and just know that, okay, well, let's enjoy this thing and stop thinking about this other thing that could have been, because other opportunities will come about. There'll be time to, so usually I end up defaulting to whatever the original agreement was. But it is hard sometimes. It's hard.
I can hear that. I can hear that's that comes up for you once in a while.
Every now and then.
Jake, what about you? What's your barometer when you're in the situation, you fought through the voice and you're saying, okay, no matter what, I'm going to do this. What is your process there?
Much like Albert, man, it's a process, right? It's not a one step. It's not a one switch. It'd be great if it was, because then you could just go, great, I'm doing the thing over here. And then now I've turned that other thing off.
Yeah.
It is a process, and something that Albert brought up that we talk a lot about as coaches, right, is kind of a concept around amazing lives on the other side of difficult. So when we're making these initial decisions to, yes, when I get there, I am going to continue to work out. I am going to do that, because we know, yes, that's difficult, but we know amazing lives on the other side of it. So part of my process is, mine's premeditation, man. It really is, because if I plan for it, this is what I intend to do when I get there, I will do it. If I go into it freewheel, man, it's coming off the tracks. It's just how that's going to go. If I have a choice, I have A or I have B, which one of those things meets my why? And if it doesn't meet the why, that automatically takes it out of the list. It just takes it off the page altogether. It gives me permission to dismiss it. And if it's not one that's going to fit going my way, I'm not going to do it.
Wow.
That makes sense. And that brings another issue up for me, and I'll throw this one to Albert. So, we've talked about obligations and we've talked about activities, and Albert kind of dipped a little bit into that crossroad between work and pleasure. But what is a activity of the soul that maybe is not an obvious thing, maybe not on your big why list, maybe not on your work list? So for me, it would be that. It's like, how do I reestablish my relationship with music, even though, it has nothing to do with my career, has nothing to do with my obligations or my income or anything like that, but just don't quite feel myself when I'm not doing that. Albert, what do you have that's like that? And what have you done to hang on to that?
Yeah. So for a while, especially growing up, going to church, that was a consistent routine that I was doing. And especially until I really figured out for myself, where is my heart in this? Like, how do I make this something that's personal and not just something that I do? And so now growing up, I remember when I went off to college, finding it kind of difficult to replicate the experience and replicate the emotional tie that I had with my hometown church, with the churches that I was exposed to in college. And so no longer having that reliable base of like this feel good, that was a challenge for me. And I did know that even though I might not be getting this same sort of nourishment that I felt like I was getting back home in Virginia when I was growing up from the churches that I was finding in college, I just had to find other ways. Like I had to figure out a way to still get that nourishing pump in, and multiply that by 5 in terms of moving on out to Los Angeles. And then still really, I still haven't found a church here that I necessarily would say is my church home. Because then you multiply that by 50 over the past year with the pandemic, where we're not even attending services in person. And so much of that true nutrition for me was the in-person, the social aspect of it. What I've done now in order to try to supplement and or just be a stand-in for the time being, is I have to push myself to read more. I have to push myself to still feel connected spiritually, whether I'm reading certain Bible verses, whether I'm making sure, and I know I don't do it enough. I know I don't do it enough, even by my own standards. I don't do it enough. And so this is something I need to continue to work on, because I do feel as though when I miss this, like when I go to sleep on Sunday and I have forgotten to read and I wake up on Monday and I'm like, there's something, oh my gosh, forgive me, please, like let me go through. And so I need to do that in order just to keep my mind right. And then also to get out of myself for a minute, because when I don't have that outpouring and that connection to others, it can get really, really crowded up here. Sweater Albert and Hat Albert, there's not a lot of room for them up there. So that is something for me though, Peter, that I feel kind of sinks in with what you just asked about, which is
it reminds me that there is a hunger. It's almost like depression or despondence is the hunger that you need to feed with that nutrition.
Yeah.
And when you think of it in those terms, it becomes very simple. We tend to overcomplicate these things. I'm not feeling right. What can I do to feel better? Just find what feeds it.
Right.
What about you, Jake? What do you feel? Circumstances change. It's not a work obligation, but there's a spiritual connection or a you connection.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I love that Albert brought this up as a concept of spirituality as nutrition, right? Literal nutrition and spirituality. I mean, I wrote that down like really fast. I'm like, do not forget that. That is really, really good. I'm an archer. I shoot a bow. At one point in my career, I was a professional archer. I traveled around and I shot in big tournaments. And it's one of those things that it's almost a meditative state for me. When you get into that very mechanical, rhythmic movement of doing it, I will absolutely notice that I will distance from myself, who that authentic version of Jake is, when I don't do that on a regular basis. And I walked past my bow one day and I'm like, holy crap, I haven't picked that up in it's been a couple weeks and I haven't touched it. Well, I'll notice a physical difference in me because I'll lose some of that strength. I'll lose some of that stamina, and I will lose some of that mental focus, that very clear and defined focus. But when I don't get to do that, if I make the excuse of not stepping into that very meditative state with that particular athletic form, I do tend to lose track of myself.
Yeah.
It hit the target within me. Bullseye. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you, Albert and Jake, for being on our panel today. If you like what you saw, don't forget to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe to this channel. We will be back again next week to explore the pain versus gain model, a useful tool for when you're having a hard time making big decisions. Also, if you'd like to talk to me one-to-one about your business and where you want to take it next, click on the link below and we can set up a time. Guys, this has been great. It got deep, it got fun. All the things I love about this show happened. So thank you. Really big.
Yeah, man, it's always fun.
Yeah, this is phenomenal. Thank you.